So let's start. So we were looking at so what we were looking at? We were looking at the virtual memory. So we had few designs to start with, and so what did we say? We said that there are. Okay, let's write it again. So it's okay. Yes. So we have two processes, let's say P1 and P2. These are two processes, and I want to allocate memory to them. So I have a physical memory here, which is say 256 bytes, 0x0 to 0xFF. I divide them into pages. I have four pages, and I name these pages as A, B, C, D. And then I ration those pages. Right? So I give those pages as and when required to each of the process. So P1 will have a process table or virtual page table. This is called VPT, virtual page table, and it has a few entries which says where is my page allocated to. Right. So that's what we had here. Right? So we had where is my page allocated to.
Yes, sir.
So similar to that. So we said maybe A is allocated to capital B and B is allocated to capital C, and there is no C and D. So and similarly, I had process two. I have two pages, and maybe A is allocated to capital A and B is allocated to say capital D, and then C and D are not allocated. Right. So this is A process one, process two is A, and this has process two is B, and this one process A and B. So now if I want to bring a new page, I actually swap it to this infinite memory that I assume that I have infinite memory. Of course, this is not true, but this is secondary storage, this is hard disk, and I swap in and swap out. So now the questions are like, where do I store this page table, right? That's what we stopped with. So where do I store this
Yeah.
page table? Uh, So one thing is, I can have it as a hardware, but we saw that having it as a hardware is not an efficient design, right? Because there will be number of entries are not limited, right? So I can have,
Yes.
so if I have 8 GB of memory, then I should have so many number of entries, or I should have the page size, which is very huge, right? What is the problem if I have the very huge page size? Then the granularity is not, or I might not be right, right? And so I want to have it as a software. So now the question is, where do I store these page tables? So any idea where can you store these page tables?
Sir, I was thinking we can store them in the memory itself, just
Yes.
however we are allocating like
Yeah.
CD. Instead of that, maybe we could reduce the size.
Yeah. So one good solution is that I have this process zeros and process ones. Maybe I will allocate this page to only store page tables. I will not allow it to store anything here. And then I have capital A, B, C pages that is allowed. So I just earmark these page tables, space for to store these page tables. Of course, I can still support 256 bytes because even though I have less than 256 bytes, even though I have 192 bytes, I can still support 256 bytes. Why? Because we already saw that case, right, where I have more
Yes,
than like
yes.
256 bytes. It's just that the swap in and swap out will increase. So I instead, even though I have 4 GB of RAM, I can support up till whatever my address bits allow me to. Right? If my address bits allow me to, if I have a 64-bit processor, so it allows me an address range of 0 to 264. So those many amount, those that much amount of data I can handle. So I can have those many pages. So I can move the same application to something which has just 1 GB of RAM. And I will, the only thing is the amount of swapping and swap out will increase, but I can still support. Right, so I can still support 256 bytes. So, but now the question is, let's think about it from the point of view of okay. I am assuming that this is now clear. So what are we trying today? So when an address is generated from the CPU or by a process, it's the so we say that it's a virtual address. We say it's a virtual address, and we go to the main memory. We go to the main memory, and then fetch the table. We fetch the table and see the translation and go to the actual main memory right, again and get data.
Yes.
Fetch the table, translate, and get the data. So this we are sure. Okay, let's keep it for now like this. We'll add one more component to this system, and then we'll see how this goes. Right. So what is that component? So we have the CPU, and then we have this main memory, and we have infinite storage. So this technology that is used to design main memory is DRAM. So this is called dynamic random access memory. And we already saw that on average it might take say 200 nanoseconds or 200 cycles or whatever. But there is one more technology called SRAM. It is called static random access memory. Have you heard of this before?
Yes, sir. I just
So what is the difference between SRAM and DRAM?
so in DRAM we can dynamically access the memory that is there. Like we have two phases, asynchronous and synchronous, and
No. See,
we can transfer.
You might have realized that by now I don't expect any textbook answer, right? So you
Yeah.
told an exactly textbook answer, but no, I want you to understand what is DRAM. Like what is dynamic in that? Why is the word dynamic? Can't you dynamically access SRAM?
We can.
Yeah. So then why is it not SDRAM? See, the idea is that the DRAM, so the static RAM. So though the word actually means that static is inferior when compared to DRAM, right? But dynamic means that it is better than the static RAM, right? Static means it is somehow static. Dynamic is somehow means that it is dynamic in nature, so it's much be better. It's actually wrong. The SRAM is much more better than DRAM. The reason is that SRAM, once you store something, it remembers forever, right? Unless you switch off the power. See, when I store something in the hard disk, it is mechanical. If I switch off the power, it would still remember it, right? Whether I'm using a magnetic disk or a flash drive, that's why I use a pen drive, right? When I use a pen drive, it always remembers. It's just not you need energy to read it. That's why when you connect it, the USB power is drawn and you read whatever is being read, right? That's why you external. So it is written and it's always remembered. And there's something called ROM, which is read-only memory, right? So which means that you flash it once and it is always there, and then you can read it any amount of times. So that is also permanent. Whereas SRAM, and as long as you are supplying power, you can read it. It will not forget the data. And the reason is it uses 6 transistors, right? So it uses the way, if you see the architecture, to remember 1 bit, it uses 6 transistors. The way the architecture is, the way circuit is. So it uses 6 transistors and it will remember. So suppose I store 1 as a bit in that. Then it will remember as long as I'm supplying the power. Of course, there is leakage power and all those things, but that is all electronics. We will not get into it. Whereas DRAM, it uses a transistor and a capacitor to remember something per bit. That's why the cost of DRAM is very less compared to the SRAM. The reason is that it uses only 1 transistor, whereas SRAM uses 6 transistors, right? That's why you can have like 8 GB of memory, but not generally you don't see an 8 GB cache in at least today. Maybe of course I can't make a generalized statement, but in general, when I buy a cache size of say Intel processor as 8 MB cache, but you can have 64 GB RAM and things like that. I know that I have reduced the number of transistors, and I'm somehow the capacitor is remembering something, right? So the capacitor is what is remembering something. Now, what is the disadvantage of that?
Keeps like we need to refresh it all the time. Capacity.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, why should I refresh it? Yeah,
capacitor loses the charge.
Yes, right, excellent. So it's something like this, right? If you see the graph, it loses, right? So it is e power something, right? So I lose the data. So what do you mean by refresh?
Like we need to supply the power again, so that
no. What is the refresh? So what does actually DRAM mean refresh? It's not that I supply power. I always supply power. It means that I actually have to read the data and rewrite the data again. So what happens? So now I am losing the data content. Right? So I am losing what is there, what I have stored. So before I lose, what should I do? I actually should read it and then write it back and make sure that this goes to this point, right? So at regular intervals, the DRAM will not be accessible. So which means that the access times of DRAM is higher when compared to the access times of an SRAM, right? Because SRAM, I don't have to do anything. So SRAM, maybe I am able to read it in say 1 cycle or 2 cycles or 3 cycles or 10 cycles. DRAM, I cannot read it in 1 cycle because on average, I am spending time on refreshing and the circuitry is different. So the way I can access it is I actually have to copy it to an SRAM, then again write it to. So these DRAMs come with their own row buffers, which I write it and then read it. So I read it and then write it. So those things are there. So the access times are higher. So maybe it takes 200 nanoseconds or 200 cycles, whereas this takes 1 cycle, right? So now you can see that there is disparity. So SRAM is expensive, but the access times are very minimal. DRAM is cheaper, but the access times are higher. So now I say, okay, I am okay to give you some money. You can have SRAM, but the amount of space that is limited, the amount of SRAM that you can have is limited. Maybe in main memory I have 8 GB. Of course, I can have infinite amount of memory here, but I can't do that because DRAM needs power, right? So I cannot just say I have, say, 1 terabyte of course, today's machines might come with 1 terabyte, but I'm saying in general, I cannot have in my mobile 1 terabyte of RAM, at least today, right? Because the amount of memory that consumed is very high. So I have some limited amount of main memory. And similarly, for SRAM, I cannot have in GBs, at least now today. Maybe I have something like this. I have a CPU, and I have a cache. So this is called cache. So this is made of SRAM. Of course, today's world, people are also talking about DRAM plus cache, but these are all research areas, right? But in general, today's world, right? I have main memory, which is made of DRAM, and say it's 8 GB. Right? Now let's assume for easier sake, let's assume that this is 1 MB. We'll build our end. Right? Let's say it's 1 MB. Now I have a cache space of 1 MB, main memory space of 8 GB. Now, what will you store in cache?
We can store the page table.
No, forget about page table. No, we'll come back to page table later. So now it's like you have a mini purse and you have a huge locker in your home, right? So what will you store in cache?
Whichever is frequently used, that one we can store.
Okay, let's say okay. So that's the I mean that's the answer that always it comes to everybody's mind, right? So whatever is frequently used. So we already saw that modern day processors in general are almost, I can say it's 100% sure that if it is generating an address 0x some address, it's generating 0x3f, it is generating 1 byte address. So it is generating a single byte for so let's say it generated 0x3f. Right? I went to the main memory and brought 0x3f and stored it in the cache. I can do that. Right? I can store the address 0x3f in the cache. I stored 0x3f in the cache, and then I supplied it back to the CPU. Right? But how do I know that I have stored 0x3f in the cache? I should note down the address, right?
Yes.
Yes or no? Right? Where will I note down the address? What is that structure called? See, one way is like, see, the same question you could ask me, how do I know which address I am accessing in the main memory, right?
Yes.
But I say the main memory is, so the main memory is some 0x0 to something, right? For the 8 GB, right? So when I generate an address, the address decoder will decode that address and go to that circuit and do this, read that. Similarly, suppose say I have say 256 bytes of cache. Then I can say that, okay, so the first design, let's come up with this design. Let's say I have a cache and I don't want to store the address anywhere. I have a cache and say, let's say it's 256 bytes, just because it's easier to write the addresses. Let's say it starts from 0x0 to 0x, and there is an address decoder logic. Similarly, there is this main memory, and say this is some 0x something. It is 8 GB of memory, and there is this address decoder logic. This works. Does this work? So when a CPU generates an address, if it generated an address between 0x0 to 0xFF, then I directly go into the cache and read that particular byte. Right? So let's say the CPU generated 0x3c. I directly go. I go through this address decoder and see 0x3f, read or write, and go back to the main to the CPU. Or if 0x3f is suppose I know that 0x3f is stale, then I go to the main memory, bring it. But what is the disadvantage of this design?
We can store only those address spaces from.
Yes, only those address spaces, right? Suppose say it generated an address. We already saw that we are humans and we are infinite greed, right? So we can't have just 256 bytes, right? So if generated an address 0x3f, which means that it is greater than 2, then there is no way that for me to store that in the cache. Right? So now how do I do it? So then I should have somewhere where each byte should have an address, right? So each byte let's say now I want to store any byte that is possible in the cache. So which means that the cache, this is the data location, this has this data, right? And then I have a space to store what? Addresses, right? And that is called tag, right? Are you following? Or,
Yes, 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 sir.
okay. So I added tag, right? So which means that you added tag, right? I actually didn't add it. Nobody else added tag. Right? We actually came up with this design, right? So then we have this. Sorry, we have this. Then we have this main memory. But main memory, I don't have any tags because that is the address space that I am allowing, and anyway I'm translating between the virtual page to the physical page or whatever. Right? So let's not worry about it. So I have this data and tag. So let's say it's 256 bytes. So I have 256 addresses stored here. So when a system comes, I check all the 256 addresses in parallel, and if it's a hit, I read that byte and go back. So are you okay with this design?
Sir, even this design also we should identify which address, right?
Yeah, so I just take the address. Suppose the CPU generated 0x3f. I search in all, how many addresses do I search? All the 256 addresses. If it's a hit, then I read that. So suppose it was a hit in this address, then I read that particular byte and send it back.
But we need to search for all 256 addresses.
Yes.
Instead, we can modify it in a way that only we can search only either some part of it instead of doing.
Yeah. So that is the first problem. Search for all addresses is a problem. This I am not happy. Right. So this I am not happy. But is it the only problem? Okay, let's say you want to cook, right? You want to cook some, say, onion bhajis, right? And you know that let's say you know that you need only 2 onions. Will you go to the store and buy only 2 onions? You will buy 2 onions. You buy some amount of onions and keep the some amount of onions in the fridge or wherever, right? And then use those onions. Why did you do that?
Whenever we need again for the next time, it is easy. We need not.
No, but you had some information, right? Let's say, suppose say, no, there was some kind of information which you acted upon. What is that information? The information is that you know that, suppose say you wanted only 2 onions today, but you brought 10 onions. You are sure that you will use the 3rd onion sometime tomorrow, right?
Yes.
So you were banking on that, right? So which means that you know that even if I bring extra onions, it will be utilized at some point in time because I know my pattern. Today I will use for budget, tomorrow maybe I will use it for, say, something else. But that is very sure that I will use the onion, right? But let's say in your house they will never use onion. So now I go and, but you will not do this, right? You will not go and buy potatoes. But just because you have gone to the store, you will not buy potatoes on onions. Maybe you might do if you have the information that you will use all onions, right? So any program, do you think that any program that you write, right? Any program that you write, whether it is C, C++, Java or whatever, has that onion thing in it. See, first thing is you are storing something here which is frequently used. So what am I storing in cache? What am I storing in cache? Frequently used data. So do you think, can you give me an example in a program where if I access an address X, there's a very high chance that I will access X. So let's say at time T, right, I accessed X. There's a very high chance that at T plus delta, I will access the same X again.
In case of loops or some for loops.
Yeah, for loops where? In which one?
Like when we, suppose if we are trying to say compare the for loop, compare.
Yes, right. So I mean, forget about this. This I itself I am accessing any number n number of times. Right?
Yes.
So I am storing frequently used addresses because I know that if address X is accessed at time t, then there's a very high chance that at t plus delta, I will be accessing the same address X. So which means that I don't have, what does it translate into hardware? I don't have to go to the main memory, right? Because I know that it will be hit in cache itself, and my access times are, say maybe this is say 1 cycle, and maybe this is say 100 cycles. So I am reducing the amount of time it goes for the supplying the data back to the CPU, right? Which means that my programs run faster. So this is called temporal locality. Right? So I am adhering to something called temporal locality. Why is it called temporal locality? Because at time t plus delta, I am trying to access the same address. So that's what. So now we come back to the same onion example. What are we trying to say? At time t, if I access the first onion, then there's a very high chance that at time t plus delta t, I will access not just x, but I will also access the third onion, which means that I will access address x plus 1. And what is this locality called? Spatial locality, right? So now, will you be happy with this design after? So first of all, does such behavior exist in C program or in any program? Yes, right. So generally you take an array, you want to add something, right? Or if it's an integer, it's 4 bytes, right? Or if it's a double, maybe it's 8 bytes. Or I am trying to sum up the entire contents of an array, which means that I am accessing x equal to 0, x0, x1, x2, x3. I am doing two matrix multiplication, which means that if it's row major order, I am doing x0, x1, x2, x3, right? So it makes sense that when CPU generates 0x3f, I as a person will go to the main memory and not just request for 0x3f. What will I request? I will request for some chunk of data. Yes. Yeah, some chunk of data, right? Some block of data, and bring it back and keep it in the cache. Right? Are you happy with this design? No, not happy. Are you? Did you follow the design? Why did we come up with this?
Yes.
So did you know all this before, or I am not? Maybe I'm repeating a lot of things, as I said. So if you think that we can go faster.
Sir, I think this is fine. I'm aware, but I'm getting a better picture of it.
Okay. So let's say we have a cache. Excellent. So we have a cache. We have a main memory. And say this was 256 bytes. We divide up the addresses into blocks. So let's say we have again blocks. Instead of calling it pages, because it's just 64 bytes or 32 bytes or 12 bytes or 4 bytes or whatever it is, right? We don't know. Generally, it will be 2 powers. So let's say we divide it up into 8 bytes block. So this will be 8 bytes. This will be 8 bytes. This will be 8 bytes, and this will be 8 bytes. And now there are only 4 addresses. Sorry. So if it was, how much it was? 256, right? So let's say we divided it into 64. 64 bytes. So now there are only 4 addresses, and this is the tag. So this is the data array, and this is the tag array. So when the CPU generates an address, I figure out which block it belongs to. I use some kind of mechanism. I search all the 4 tags, and then I will read it. If it is not there, then I will go to the main memory and fetch it, right? Okay. So this design somewhat. We'll see how to design a cache later, or I don't know, maybe there, because the designing a cache itself is an interesting thing, right? We can come up with something called set associativity, fully associativity, direct map, and things like that. Let's see if time permits, we'll come back to it. But let's assume that there is something called cache, and there's something called main memory, and there is this anyway this infinite. All this is fine. So how internally, how does this design look? The design looks something like this. So I have the CPU, I have a small tiny cache where the access time is extremely fast, and then I have a main memory where the access time is a bit higher, but the storage space is very huge, and then I have the infinite. So this is fine. So now I also agreed that when the CPU generates, what address will it generate?
Virtual address.
So it will generate a virtual address. So the CPU is generating a virtual address, and maybe there are multiple processes running on the CPU. So it's P0, P1, P2, P3. And then how do I access the main? How do I access the memory? I have to access the memory using a, what should I access the memory using? when the cache was not there, right? Let's say the cache was not there. When an address was generated, when the CPU generated an address, what did the first thing that you do?
We compare it with the page table. We try to fetch the values from page.
Yes, yeah, we try to fetch the, yeah, what do? We take the virtual address, get the page table. So we'll see what process it is, and we'll pick the process's virtual page table, convert this virtual address to physical address, and access the main memory. So now I have added this cache. So I have added this cache. All right. I generated a virtual address. So can I directly go to the cache? Actually, there are designs where you can, but we'll for your exam, or not just for your exam, but for your initial understanding. Let's say there is some issue with doing that. We want the physical address to access the cache. There are virtual address caches also, but we'll not go into it. Like we'll build upon it. Maybe if time permits, we will build on it. Right? So we want the physical address because that's how memory is accessed. We cannot access using virtual address. What happens if I access using virtual address? Let's say we directly allow the virtual address to access the cache, right, or the main memory. Then maybe I might access somebody else's data, right? That we already saw, right? Because we have to figure out what. So now I generated the virtual address. I go to the main. So now let's say this is the design I have. I generated a virtual address. I went to the main memory. Right? I went to the main memory, took the page table, read the page table of that particular process, converted the address. Right? Then I searched in the cache. If there's a hit in the cache, then I get back the data. If it's missed, then again I go to the main memory and read the data, store it in the cache, and get it to the CPU. If it's hit, I send it to the CPU. Right? It's just plain if else. Are you okay with this design? It is like something like this, right? So you brought 10 onions, you kept it in your home, you used up 2 onions, but you want to use the third onion, but you don't know the address of the third onion. So you again go to the main memory, go to this guy, shopkeeper, and say, where have I kept my third onion? Can you point me to that location? Then I come back to the home, then pick the third onion. Then he will say, why are you even buying so much onion? Right? So you say, anyway, you are coming to me. Anyway, you are coming to me. So why can't you buy the third onion at that point? Right? So I am not happy with this. So what will you suggest?
Maybe we can move the page table entries.
Yeah, where will you keep those page table entries?
Cache.
But cache is very small, right? You already saw that cache is very small. And cache also has this data, right? So, yeah, you can keep it in cache. It's a good solution. Yeah, you can actually keep it in cache. So let's say cache is, okay, let's go with your design. Let's see what's the thing in that. Let's say I have 256 bytes of cache, right? And if I have 8 GB of memory, right? I have 8 GB of memory. And let's say the page size is say 8 kilobytes. Then there will be how many pages? It will be 8 GB by 8 kilobytes, right? So let's say it's in some orders of thousands. Let's say it's 10,000. Yeah. Let's say it's 2,000. Right? Let's not do any cut. Let's say it's 2,000 pages. And there are any number of processes, right? Like there will be 4 processes. I can earmark some amount of cache space. And say, I will store all the page tables here. But can I store all the page tables here? So now what will you store in that cache?
Maybe some metadata of page tables saying where the page table is.
But you'll still have to go to the main memory, right?
Yeah.
Like it is like storing some address to your shop vendor, but you still have to go to the shop vendor to figure out the third onion, right? No, you already said this answer. See, why did you come up with the cache? What did you store in the cache?
Whichever is frequently accessed.
Yeah, so now what will you store in this data? Cache? Yeah, what will you store in this cache? So what are you doing what are you using the page table for, right? Let's assume, let's ask, what am I doing with the page table? What am I doing with the page table? So that's the question that I have to ask. CPU generates an address 0x some A B C, right? Some A B C. Right? It generates some address. I am looking at the page table and getting some address 0x. So it generated 0x ABC. Then maybe I generated with say I get an address 0xy or whatever. Right? So it generated an address X. I converted it to an address Y. Right? Now, what is the chance that it will try to convert the address X again? There's a very high chance. Right? Why is there a very high chance?
Because we try to access it frequently.
Yes, right, because whatever is applicable for cache should be applicable for, because that's what it is, right? Everything is the same thing, right? So what do you want to store in the cache now?
Sir, maybe we can store the address, like we can store whatever block we are storing, if we store it corresponding to its physical address.
No, right? We don't know, right? What block is there? Like, how do I know what block is there? Only when I translate the address, right?
Like if we get corresponding translation already for some.
No, right? See, this cache has some block of address. But how do I know what is there here? When I search in the cache. And
Yes.
how do I search in the cache? Using some address.
Yes.
What is that address? Physical address.
Physical address.
How do I get the physical address? By looking at here.
Yes.
Right? But how do I know what address it is unless I translate? So you're eaten yourself, right? Like it's like a circular loop, right? So what is this page table? The page table is some entries, right? So there are we said that there are some 2000 entries, right? So the process 1 has 2000 entries. Process 2 has 2000 entries. Okay. And process 3 has 2000 entries, so on and so forth. Let's say all processes have some number of entries. The amount of space in cache is limited, that you already saw, right? The amount of space in cache is limited. Okay. So let's say the cache can store only some amount of page table entries. Right? So what will you store in the cache?
Starting entry.
No, it's not starting, right? We already saw what you store in cache.
Yeah, we store the frequent ones, but
yeah. So why can't I store the frequent entries of the table in the cache?
can store some.
No, not we can actually. I think you are not done.
No. What I'm thinking is if we store, like we can't store all the page table entries, no sir. I mean,
Yes.
for page tables, we can't store them in cache.
Yes. So we store frequently used entries. Let's go with the design and see what happens, right? Let's say the CPU is generating an address. Let's say the CPU is generating an address 0x3f, right, for process 1, and for process 2 it is generating an address say 0x AB. So that's what it's generating. Okay. Now let's say when the CPU generated this 0x3f, nothing was there in this particular reserved location. So I went to the main memory, saw the page table, right? Saw the page table, right? And the page table entry was somewhere here. Let's say it was somewhere here, right? So what is this translating me? It's translating this 0x3f to some address, right? That is giving me a physical address, right? So similarly, the CPU generated 0xAB, process 2 0xAB. It came and it saw that there is nothing, and then it went to the main memory, and maybe it is somewhere here. Let's say it is this. So when I saw this translation, so maybe this got 0x3f got translated to say 0xABE32, something like this, some physical address. So in this particular thing, I have stored so let's say this can store 2 entries, right? That's the amount of space I have. So in this, I have stored 2 entries. One is I am saying this belongs to process 1, and this is 0x3f, and the translation is 0xABE32, and maybe this gets translated to say 0x say 3fe. So then I store 0x3f here, and this is 0x3fe, and this I belong to process 2. Now I already know that because of temporal locality, there's a very high, and also because of spatial locality, because the page size is very high, there's a very high chance that this translation might be needed again, right? Then what happens? Then when I come here, I already hit it in the cache, right? I get the translation, look it in the cache, and go back, right? So what am I?
Now we are translating it, right? Now we are getting the 0xADE32. This is our
Yes.
physical address. We will be comparing this address to addresses in the cache.
Yes. Right. Fine. Right.
Yes,
I don't
yes,
know.
yes.
So this anyway I reserved. So there are some tags here, and I compare it with physical address. That's okay, right? That's what I'm doing. And if I bring a new page, suppose the CPU generated some address which does not belong to this page, then I replace this entry with some other entry, whatever the new entry, because I am just refreshing this frequently used page table entry. So I am storing because the entire page table cannot be stored in the cache, and I have to store something in the cache because else I am always going to the main memory to get the translation. I am storing something, and what do I am storing? I am storing frequently used table entries. And why do I store frequently used table entries? Because I know that because of temporal locality, the same address may be generated, or because of spatial locality, if suppose I generate 0. So what is this page table entry? The page table entry is converting not just a single address, this entire say 8 KB of or whatever, right? So we saw that there is a 64 byte or say 256 bytes of page size, right? Let's say the page size is 256 bytes. Then a 256 bytes virtual address is being converted to 256 bytes, 256 bytes physical address, right? So you suppose say I had generated 0x3f and I had bought the translation, then the same table entry will be used for translating somewhere here also, right? Or somewhere here also, right? Which means that all those entries are already present because with that one entry. So for all this, right? So for all the translations of 256 bytes, I am always hitting here, right? Because of both spatial and temporal. Now the final question is, what is this cache? So do I want to use the existing cache, or can I add a small cache here such that I bifurcate between these two?
Better to add a small cache.
Yeah, what is that small cache for? You already know this, right? You have been studying it in your CO. I know that you know, but you have never mapped it to this. That's all.
Level 1 cache.
No. It starts with T.
TL.
Yeah, TL.
Translation.
Translation Lucas said buffer, right? It's buffer.
Yeah.
What is
Yes,
a buffer? What is it a buffer for?
To store some data, like which.
Yeah, what data? What is the buffer? What is it a buffer for? It is the buffer for virtual page table.
Yes, yes.
That's why it has entries, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's all. I mean, that's all there is to this entire system, right? So, I mean, mind you, this is you didn't answer this because you didn't say that we'll keep it in the cache because somebody wrote it in the textbook. It is because there is a necessity to do this, right? We figured it out by going through the design process, right? Okay. So now we'll build the new design. So what we do have here, you are only adding. I am not adding components. You are only adding the components. So we have a process. Sorry, we have a CPU. We have a CPU. CPU can run multiple processes. Processes are what I mean. They have a program is some code that you have written. When you compile it, gets converted to an executable, and when you launch it on a CPU, it gets a life of its own, and that is a processor. And then when the CPU is generated, I have two entries here. One is a TLB. Let's write it in. I have a TLB. It has few entries. Let's say it has 4 entries. What is TLB giving me? TLB is telling me what is given a virtual address, what is a physical address. Okay. And TLB is made again of SRAM, and it's a fully associative kind. TLB is actually a fully associative cache, which means that I can, like, there are 4 entries. I can search all the 4 entries in parallel. When there is a hit, I get the physical address, and then I have cache, and I am storing what? Blocks of data. right? Some 64 bytes or whatever. This has 4 blocks, and I also need to know what are the addresses for these blocks. So there is this tag array. So there is a tag array and a data array. In tag, I am storing, of course, I store something else also, but we'll not get into it. So in tag, I am storing the address. In data array, I am storing the actual data. And let's for now assume that we are searching all of them 4 in parallel, and if there's a hit, I get it here. So these both are made of SRAM, and then this is finally connected to a main memory. And there is this main memory which is made of DRAM. Right? I have reserved some space. Of course, this is also again not exactly true. We'll come back to it later. We have reserved some space where I'm storing what? Virtual page table. And then there is this huge amount of memory, and then there is this infinite memory. Of course, as I said, this is also this thing, what I said of reserving space, it is not exactly the same thing. We'll come back to it later. And this is not infinite memory. Right? That also we'll come back to it. Okay, what is VPT giving to me? VPT is telling me virtual address to physical address. Right? Okay. So now, given an address, right? Let's see what happens. Given an address, 0 is okay. I think the memory is sorry, power is not right. Okay, there is pencil power. I know what's happening. Okay. So let's say CPU generates an address, right? Let's say CPU generates an address 0x 3f. CPU generated an address. Okay. Now, where do I go first?
We'll go to TLB.
Yes, excellent. And if it is a miss in the TLB, suppose say I didn't find the address translated, then do you think
we
that,
have to go to...
No, then do you think that the block will definitely not be in the cache?
No, it can be there in the cache.
Yeah. Now can you see your compre exam paper?
Yes.
Okay, excellent. So now I go to the TLB. If it's a hit in the TLB, let's say it's a hit. TLB hit, right? Then I get so CPU generated a virtual address. I get a physical address. I got a physical address, right? Now what do I do with the physical address?
We can match it with tag bits in cache.
Yeah, I search in cache. If it is a hit, then I send it back to CPU, the data to CPU. And then everybody is happy. If it is a miss,
go to main memory and get that block of data.
Yes, excellent. I go to the main memory. Then are you sure that it will be in main memory?
Yes.
Why are you sure about that?
Because we are getting the physical address.
Yes. Okay. Okay. Let's assume. I mean, you are right, but let's assume that you are. I know that there is some gap in the understanding, but let's fill that up again. Okay. So we are sure that it's in the main memory. Okay. So now we get the block of data. Now instead of just fetching 0x3f, I get some chunk of data. So that because I have already gone to the onion vendor, rather than buying 2 onions, I'm buying 1 kg of onion. Right? So I get the block of data. I put it in the cache, and then send it to CPU. Or maybe I do it in parallel. I mean, let's not get into all. So this is fine. Now let's say TLB, there was a miss. Right. Then what do? I go to the page. I go to the main memory. In the main memory, what do I search for?
For that particular virtual address, wherever it is.
So I check virtual page table. VPT. Excellent. So in virtual page table, are you guaranteed to get the address? If if the page was in the secondary storage, there is a chance that the translation, so
It's not yet happened. Yes.
Yes, right. So there are two, actually there are two cases. We'll come back to it later. I will add it again. But let's say we go back to this translation, right? Let's say we were saying here. So maybe the CPU has generated an address, say C, and it says that C is now mapped into the hard disk. So it's a hit in the page table. It's a hit in the page table. Now there are two cases. So in the page table, there's a hit. Let's finish off the easiest case. There's a hit in the page table, but it says that it is not in the, it is not in the main memory, not in main memory. Then what do? You go to the hard disk, copy the page to the main memory, update BPT,
paste,
get the data back to the whatever that particular block. Right now, you have bring a block to the cache, and also update what TLB and send the data back. Of course, you can do many of these things in parallel, but it's for your understanding. Right? This is fine. It's a hit, but it is in main memory. Right? Then I just going to have to go to the all these things. I directly go to the cache, update TLB because there was a miss in the TLB, right? Which means that it was not frequently used, as frequently used. And then all everything is perfect. Okay. Now, let's say it's a hit in the TLB. It's a, I mean, it's a miss, which means that that entry itself is not there. Can such a case arise? Is the question. We'll go back to this example, right? Here, the entry C is not there. No, why can it? How can it happen?
Maybe that was not accessed till now. It was never required. It is the first time we are.
No. Yeah, when can you not have accessed it? So can there be a memory which you have never accessed in your life? See here, C was accessed at least once. That's why there is an entry, right? It's just that it is not in the main memory. Can there be an address which you have never accessed in your life? Can there be a page that can never be accessed?
That's possible.
Yeah, how is it possible?
And if it is not needed by the process, then it will not.
See, when you, how is this entry created? Suppose say I used a malloc, right? You allocated say 1 MB of data. Then for that 1 MB translation, there will be some added translation here, right? So I would have translated C and D. That 1 MB it would have. So whatever malloc I am doing, the entry gets noted here, right? It is just that the entire page might not be here; it might be in hard disk. So can there be a page where you have never malloc, or the process has never used it? The process has never touched upon it. The actual answer is no, right? So what does it mean that the CPU has generated an address which is not in the page table? This you, as an software engineer, you are doing research in software engineering, right? So what is it called? So you are trying to access something. So it's like
not there. Okay. Maybe it's the address translation is wrong.
No, right? Hardware cannot be wrong, right? I mean, let's assume that hardware cannot be wrong. You have seen this fault again and again, right? What is that fault called? No, when you run a program, it crashes, right? Sometimes it crashes. It gives you a fault. What does it?
Segmentation fault.
Yeah, what is the segmentation?
Fault.
Huh?
No, I
See, let's say.
Maybe we are trying to access some part which is not in the memory, like which is not there.
No, not in the memory. No.
I mean,
it need not be in the memory. It might be in the hard disk, but now.
No, the address. The address itself is out of bound or something.
No, nothing like that. Right? Let's say in point array, to say A, say size of 100 into say sorry, what is it? Size of int 100 into size of int. Right? This is what you already know. Now, if I do A of 10,000, What do you think will happen? Right now, when I did this, when I executed this statement, what have I requested? I have requested for 400 bytes, right? Which means that immediately in the virtual page table, for the 400 bytes, let's say okay, let's make it easier, right? Let's say I have requested for, so this is 4 bytes, right? Okay, let's make it even easier so that it's easier to understand. Okay, write it again. Let's say character part. A is equal to, anyway, this is 1, right? Size of character is 1. Right? And let's say I have requested for 64 bytes. So for the entire 64 bytes, whatever the page size me for that page, let's say the page is 8 KB, right? For that page, an entry is made. Let's say this entire thing gets translated to an address, say page which belongs to a particular page, which is, say, let's call it as alpha. So there's a translation available from alpha to a physical address, which is, say, let's capital A. So this translation is available. And what is the size of alpha? This alpha might be the size of what? Page table, right? Sorry, page, right? What is the size of it? Oh, yeah, I think you are following. Okay. Now I generated an address A of 10,000. Will it fall in this alpha? No, right? So it will come here. Is it a hit in the virtual page table? No.
No.
Now, should you allocate more memory and say, I will allocate more memory? Does it how it works? No, right? So what will somebody tell you?
It is not in the bounds of this.
Yeah, it means that you are accessing something which you are not asked. So what?
Allowed to access.
Yeah. So what are you moving away from? You are moving from one segment and you are going away from the segment. So why is it called a segmentation fault? Because you have moved from that particular segment, this particular segment, to the next segment, right? Which you don't have that access to. So should you be allowed to continue?
No.
No, right? Like Sridhar has written this program, right? That's what he was trying to do, right? He's an evil person, so he is trying to write a program where he's trying to access something which he has not requested for. So which means that I have to kill. I have to kill what? Kill the process.
Kill this process.
Yes, I have to kill this process. Right? So that's what I do. It's a miss. Then kill the process. Now the exact question is, who will kill this process? Can the process kill itself? No, right? Because the process does not know that it has access. So who will kill this process? So when you get a segmentation fault, who gave you that message segmentation? So did the program say I have segmentation fault and vanish? Who told you that? Operating system, right? So that is like the fault, right? The operating system says. But can you have a system without an operating system? The answer is yes. Then how do I handle this? Then that's a beautiful thing that you have to read more. Right? Yeah. Did we miss anything here? Yeah, I think we have covered most of this. Okay. So now I'll ask you these questions, right? So whatever was in the exam. So if it is a hit in the TLB, right? Then there is. Then are you sure that it will be in the cache? So if there's a hit in the cache, it hit in the TLB. Are you sure that it will be in the cache?
Necessary.
Huh?
Not necessary.
Not necessary, right? Yes, not necessary, right? Because there's a hit in the TLB, but maybe this block was kicked out from the main memory. There's a hit in the TLB. Are you sure that it will be in the main memory? The block will be in the main memory? No, think about it. There's a hit in the TLB.
Okay. Yes, sir.
Yes, right. No, you should not say the other answer because I just told you, right?
No. Yeah,
right. Okay. If there's a miss in the TLB, are you sure that it will not be in the cache?
That is also not. It might be in the cache.
It might be, right? Yes. So there's a miss in the TLB. There's a miss in the virtual page table. Then are you sure that it will be in the main memory? Or is there a chance that it can be in main memory? So it's a miss. I mean, when I say miss, I am talking about this miss, not in the main memory. I mean, I saw that there's a translation, but the translation tells me that it is in the hard disk. So can it be also in the main memory?
Yes, I mean,
Oh, right? No, right?
sir, if it is a miss in the main memory, then it has to be in the hard disk, sir. If
No. I am saying if it's a miss in the page table, that entry, when I say miss, I'm not talking about the segmentation fault miss. I'm talking about the translation that I could not find the translation, which means that that address was accessed sometime, but I can actually could not find the translation. I
okay,
mean, which means
it
that
might be, it will be in hard disk,
yeah, but it's definitely not in the.
main memory,
Then it is definitely not in the.
cache.
That's it. So that's what I was asking in the CO of the exam. So again, these things are not because you studied in a textbook, right? This is what you came with. This is the design that you came up with, not I, right? Not I or anybody else, right? Not either also. You came with this design. Okay. Now one important question I'll ask you. Let's see how much I was able to communicate. Let's say I have there's a miss in the cache. Okay, this is clear, right? If it's clear, not clear, we'll come back.
Yes.
Cache miss. And what else can miss? What else can you have a miss as? You can have a cache miss. You can have a main memory miss. Right. So how much does a cache miss cost me? I go to the next level of cache. Maybe there are multiple levels of cache. I go to the next level of cache, or I go to the main memory. Right? So it generally is a maximum of the let's 200 cycles or whatever, 200 cycles. If it's a cache miss, that's what I have to pay the penalty. But if it's a main memory miss, then I have to go to the hard disk, which means that it is no longer in cycles. I cannot no longer in 1000 or 2000 cycles, because main memory we saw that it is no longer in nanoseconds, but it's in milliseconds or 10 power minus 2 seconds, right? I have to pay huge. I have to wait huge amount of time, right? Now there is a cache miss. Who will handle this cache miss? If there's a cache miss, you also know that there's one process called operating system running. Will you go and tell the operating system, hey, there is a cache miss, can you do something about it? So what happens if I go and tell the operating system, which means that, see, you should never forget that the operating system itself is a process, right? Then I have to do a context switch, go to the operating system and say that, hey, there is a miss in the page cache, can I do something about it? Do you want to do it, or can you have any other solution?
It's difficult if we have to go to operating system and tell it.
Yeah. So we allow the hardware to handle it. So we'll say we have a hardware called cache controller, which figures out that there is a miss. Where is the cache controller? The cache controller is sitting here. He's small thing sitting here. He is looking at it and saying that, hey, this tag was not. So the CPU actually generated an address, saw the asked, do you have this address? If the address is not there, he will say he will go to the another person who is called the memory controller. And so this is entirely handled without even contacting the operating system, right? Similarly, when there is a main memory miss, you want to bring a page, right? You want to bring the page from the hard disk to the main memory. Now, will you allow to the main memory to handle it, or will you go and tell the operating system? No, we actually go and tell the operating system. Can you guess what is the reason? The reason is because of something like this. See, if I allow the main memory controller to handle page misses, what happens? For the entire time, the CPU
it will take a lot. It is idle.
Idle, right? So it is better for whom to handle. You go and tell the operating system, hey, there is a page table miss. There's a page table miss. I don't know what to do. You do whatever you want. Then what will the operating system do? The operating system will initiate the transfer from the main hard disk to the main memory. But at the same time, what else can the operating system do? The operating system can schedule some other process.
Some other process to work.
Yes, right. So that's why this is handled in the
operating system.
by the software. And the entire page table is handled by the operating system.
Operating system. Okay.
So it's actually a data structure in the operating system.
Sir, now the virtual translation lookup side buffer, that is also related to page table, right? That is also a cache.
Yes.
That is handled by cache controller or?
Yeah, you should tell me. You should tell me if there's a miss in the TLB. Will you go and tell the operating system?
No, we can. The cache controller can handle it.
So that's what I'm saying. All these answers are not because they are somewhere else, right? So these are all. I mean, if you are not yet convinced, I will show you something, right? So let's see. So this kernel.org is what the kernel source code is there, right? You can see that you can actually see the code written here for the page table. I don't know, it was. Okay, it's taking me to. Okay, as of now, I'm not able to find it. Just keep but let's see. There is documentation. Yeah, these are all data structures, but I wanted to show you the code. Yeah, if you search for it, you'll actually get it. I think
I will try to find it, sir.
Yeah. So there are like you can actually go through the code. So they will be like data structures and I don't know why I'm not able, I used it, but I somehow I'm not able to find it now.
I'll search for it, sir.
Okay. Yeah, just search for it. It's just code. It's in the so you can actually come up with your own replacement policy, recompile the kernel, and launch it, and your system will behave differently. Right? The performance will differ. Will have different. Okay. Yeah. Is there anything else that you wanted? We can discuss about cache if you want.
Sir,
if you understand cache.
Back to this pipelining branch prediction. Like I tried going through some material, but I didn't get it so clear.
Yeah, then maybe we'll schedule some other time for that. But you understand cache, so memory is there, right? So you understand cache. Then you understand set associativity and all those things. Okay. Yeah, so then maybe we'll meet some other time for the pipeline. Yeah, but yeah, all these things are like what you think about, right? It's not in the textbook. Definitely, it's not about the textbook, right?